Taiko tataite Hito sama yosete na Ha!
Hi, this is the first episode of a podcast I'm doing called Bunka. My name is Ria Somerville, and I've been able to make this podcast thanks to the New Zealand Japanese Exchange Program grant. Over the course of this series, I'm going to be looking at Japanese culture around Aotearoa and where you can go to see, experience, and feel a little slice of Japan in New Zealand. So the intro to this first episode was a little bit different than the others are going to be. That was a clip from a Narukami Taiko class in Wellington. And so this episode is going to be about Taiko in New Zealand, and I'll be interviewing the leader of Narukami Taiko, Jessie Gibbs. So a little bit about me. My background is in museum studies and art history, and I'm a half Japanese, half Pākehā woman living in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. Thanks to the grant that I received from the New Zealand Japanese Exchange Program, I was able to travel around the country conducting interviews and visiting places where you can experience a little bit more Japanese culture. So yeah, today's episode is going to be on Taiko, and Taiko is a form of Japanese ensemble drumming, and Jessie opened Narukami Taiko in Wellington in 2014, but her interest in Taiko started for her during high school and during university.
So what is Taiko? Taiko in Japanese actually is a translation for drum. It is also known as wa daiko, with wa meaning Japanese and taiko meaning drum. The drums are created by hollowing out a piece of wood. So rather than building each of the sides, a trunk or a log is hollowed out in the middle, and then either end is covered with cowhide. The kind of Japanese drumming that we know today is ensemble drumming, where groups of people gather with a variety of different drums and drum together. So when did Taiko begin in Japan? There's history that says that the ancient people in Japan, the Jomon, used Taiko as a communication tool and in religious ritual. It's thought that Taiko was brought over from China and Korea, and this links to the religious practices that it was used in, and it's linked to Shinto and Buddhism. The drums themselves date back to the 6th century, and it has ties to folklore and mythology in Japan, such as gods and deities. The mythological aspects of Taiko are linked to the legend of Amaterasu, the sun goddess. She locked herself away in a cave and took the light and the sun with her. While locked away in the cave, the world was locked in an endless night, and devils sprang roaming freely across the earth. It was a small goddess, Ame no Uzume no Mikoto, who poured out a sake barrel and jumped on its head, beginning a wild dance. The loud pounding of her feet made a sound that no one had ever heard, and the rhythm was so infectious that it drew Amaterasu out of the cave. This was the beginning of Taiko in myth, but the actual drumming is supposedly dating back to the 6th or 7th century, thanks to a clay figurine which was found in the Gunma prefecture, which depicts a person holding a drum. The tempo and the loudness of Taiko is also why it was linked to military, as when troops were marching into battle, Taiko drumming was a way to boost morale and intimidate enemy forces. During the Kamakura era, around 1100, when the samurai class gained power, Taiko was linked to some of the other important parts of culture, such as Noh theatre and kabuki plays. Taiko, like a lot of other aspects of Japanese culture, is taught by masters and passed down through generations that way. We can see a similar teaching method in tea ceremony, ceramics, martial arts, and many other aspects of Japan. Strangely, it wasn't until 1951 that taiko drumming became a group method, which is also known as kumidaiko. And this was made by a jazz percussionist by the name of Daihachi Okuji. In a shrine, Okuji had found a sheet of traditional taiko music, which he reinterpreted in a modern way. As a jazz musician, Okuji was interested to see why nobody had played taiko together before, and through that he was able to create this new tradition of kumidaiko, where a group of people play taiko together. Essentially, the ensemble works in a similar way as a Western drum kit, and there are different sized drums for different people, and by playing together they create the full sound. There's one group that's particularly accredited for making kumidaiko global, and that was a group called Onde Koza that was formed in 1969 on an island in Japan called Sado. The group, which was formed by Den Takayasu, was actually like a commune, and they lived together, they cultivated fields, and they would run marathons every day. And after a while, I think it was in 1975, the group ran the Boston Marathon in the USA. And after they'd finished running, they performed taiko, and this caught the attention of global media and made Onde Koza this kind of global phenomenon, bringing a lot of interest to the art of taiko. After this incident, Onde Koza had actually gained so much attention that they were able to tour, and they took this tour around the world. And they also toured a US marathon tour in 1990, where their first performance was at Carnegie Hall. Za Onde Koza is credited as being the group which spread taiko globally. And it's not really a surprise, because the way that they would tour around the world meant that more countries got to see taiko in action. And Onde Koza kind of created this reputation because they would run their tours. They would complete their tours entirely on foot, running from place to place and then performing in a different location. And just like other forms of Japanese culture, some of which I'm going to be talking about in this series, taiko spread across the world, and people became interested in joining or learning this skill, this instrument. It's kind of a combination of performance, music, exercise. It just brought all these things together, which meant that people were fascinated with it and wanted to try it for themselves. So now in Aotearoa we have various taiko groups around the country, and although I talk to just Narukami Taiko, depending on where you're located, there's probably a taiko group nearby which you could join. There are many schools which are teaching taiko. So after the advanced class that I visited at Narukami Taiko, me and Jessie sat down and talked about how she got into taiko originally, how she started up her school, how it's been received in New Zealand, how Kiwis are enjoying learning it, and the different cultural aspects that are involved in becoming a taiko school and passing on these Japanese traditions to other people. So before I get into that conversation, I'm just going to play a little clip from one of the classes.
So I wanted to play you guys that clip so you could kind of get a feel of how energizing and exciting Taiko is. Now, just a fair warning, we did an interview in the gym of an intermediate school after the advanced class of Narukami Taiko, so some of this audio is a little bit kind of echoey and scrappy, so just bear with. But here's my interview with Jessie Gibbs, the founder of Narukami Taiko in Wellington. So, hi Jessie, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, my name is Jessie. I run the Taiko group called Narukami Taiko in Wellington, and we've been going since 2014. I started playing Taiko in 2008 at my university called IPC in Palmerston North, and I lived in Japan for a little bit teaching English, and then I really missed playing Taiko, so when I came back I started the group here.
So living in Japan, did you play Taiko as well?
I kind of did. There was actually a Taiko team at my high school, so I occasionally played with them, but unfortunately when they practiced I was also teaching an English class. And then I did get to play with like a couple of groups just for fun, but I never found a group that I stayed with because I was working quite a lot, so I didn't really have enough time to play.
So I'd actually never heard of IPC until I'd looked at your website. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So they were called IPC, but now they're called IPU, and it's a tertiary institute that is owned by a Japanese company. So they started in 1990, and it's primarily an international school for people to come and learn English. But what's great for the Kiwis is that we can go and get immersed in Japanese culture there because there's so many Japanese students. But there were also like people from other cultures as well, like France and New Caledonia, Tahiti. I'm just thinking of the French ones for some reason, like Fiji, China, Vietnam.
So it started in 1987 and it was called IPC as an International Pacific College, and now it's IPU. And what made you want to go there? Was it the Japanese culture? Did you have an interest from when you were a teenager, or? Yeah,
from high school. So it's really silly, but I actually really loved the TV show Dragon Ball Z. And at the time, the episodes hadn't all been translated into English, so I was like, okay, I'm going to take Japanese. I'll be fluent in about a month, and I can download the episodes and watch that, which didn't end up working out. That's what got me into Japanese culture, and then just throughout high school, I just had various things that kind of inspired me to keep going. Like we had an exchange trip with a couple of students, and I really gelled with one called Nana, and we're still friends to this day. And I went over there, and when she was with me, she called my mum, and my stepdad, but my granny. And then when I went over there, I called them like ba-chan or ji-chan or ka-san, and we've kind of got that family relationship. And that kind of pushed me to keep going through with my Japanese studies. And that's what left me at IPC. And then I saw a drum team there. And it was at our welcoming party, and there were like about 6 women, I think 1 guy in the team at the time, and they were playing, and it seemed to shiver down my spine, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So that's what I did. Yeah.
So tell me about starting Narukami Taiko.
So we started in 2014. What happened is I was thinking, how are we supposed to start a drum team if we don't have drums? So in about 2013, I contacted a team in Auckland called Tamashi. They created their own drums, so they got me in touch with their drum maker, and I got a couple of them, about 3. And then I started this group in March 2014. We have something like 26 or more now.
Yeah, I mean, I was so surprised when I saw how many drums you've got. I think it's a lot of moving stuff for a class, I suppose. Like you'd have to have some pretty good upper body strength for moving around all those drums. So you've spent time in Japan both after college but also during high school.
Yeah, we went over for only a 2-week trip, and then I moved there after university because I always wanted to live in Japan and be an English teacher.
And was that with Jet?
No, I went through my university. So they own about 50 sister high schools and a couple of universities in Japan. So I went to teach at their school where I was one of the English teachers there.
Okay, and have you been back? Do you go back every now and again?
Before COVID, I'd go back very regularly, though I would go back for Taiko rather than teaching English because I realised I hated that. So yeah, I go back quite regularly for study. So there's a couple of workshops that I've participated in and stayed with a couple of Taiko companies to kind of, relearn what I, learned at university in terms of Taiko. Yeah.
So watching the class, I noticed that you have kind of quite set rituals, like you do your warm-ups and stuff like that. Do you have a lot of aspects of Japanese culture that you bring into the classes that you teach?
Yeah, actually, Q just brought up respecting the drums. So, as New Zealanders, we don't really think about things as having spirits or, we respect things, but we don't respect things as much as Japanese people do. So with our taiko, like the body's made from a tree. Usually, if you get the very expensive taiko, it's a couple of 100-year-old tree that gets cut down and then that gets scooped out, and that creates your drum. We've got stave drums, but either way, a tree has been cut down for us to be able to play our drums. And then we play with animal skin, so we play with cow skin primarily throughout our drums. So even though the cow wasn't killed specifically for us to play it, we are still playing a body part of an animal, and our sticks are made from wood as well. So really kind of everything that we're doing with taiko has a life that has been given up for us to be able to play these drums. So we need to respect that is like a gift that was given, so we don't mistreat our drums or anything like that. So I guess that's one part.
When we're pushing them around, we always push them with our hands, never with our feet. There's a whole thing around how we treat the drums.
Yeah.
I think our bashi burnings are really special. Well.
Okay. So, at the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, we've recently changed it to matariki because we're in New Zealand. But we like to burn the bachi that we've broken throughout the year.
Oh, cool. So just so you guys know, bachi is the sticks that they use for drumming, and also that other voice that you're hearing, Q, is one of the students of the advanced class and also teaches beginner classes at Narukami Taiko. So how often are you breaking bachi in class?
I think I just emptied my bag of all the broken ones, but
We hold on to them all year.
yeah, maybe I have one in here, but probably not. I think I emptied. Oh, here's one bit. They can splinter or they can completely snap. It depends how you break it. Usually, if it breaks like this, you've done something wrong, where you've hit the rim or something like that. But it does happen semi-regularly. I don't break very often anymore.
You have very good control.
Yeah. But we've got about 70 students in the group at the moment, so the bachi do break semi-regularly. But we burn them once a year at the beginning of the year to kind of give thanks to the bachi for letting us play them, and we burn them at our house. Yeah.
That's nice.
Just have a nice party about it.
Have a little bonfire.
Yeah.
Fire pit.
Yeah, so I was introduced to that when I was staying in Japan with my friend Kenji, who's a taiko player, and he took us to a shrine, so Shinto shrine, and they had this huge bonfire, and he'd burn his bachi there and give thanks, but also, the little charms, I guess, you get at the temples that have, wish you well for marriage or car, or, you don't have a car crash. You actually burn those every year as well, and then get new ones. So we bring that into, it's a great way for us to get together, but to also respect our, what's given to us to be able to play.
So is it quite common to do the style of warm-up that you guys do before playing taiko? Is that common in Japan as well?
Like stretches and warm-ups?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. So generally, they actually do it for longer, I'd say. We kind of cut it down a little bit because we're New Zealanders and we're a little bit impatient. So if we play the same thing over and over again, people get a bit bored of it. We do We do warm-ups almost every time, and then in Japan they do it for a little bit longer. But you're thinking of not just what you're playing with your hands, you're thinking of how you're standing, how your arms moving, how you're engaging your core, how you what's your positioning. And there's so many things to think of, like as well as your grip, because if you grip too low, your sticks will start to move out of your hand, or things like that.
So it seems like you're getting a pretty big school. You said you've got 70 students?
At the moment, yes. This is our biggest intake this last term, so we've got about 70 students across 5 different classes.
Are you the only teacher?
So most of the time I'm the only teacher, but Q is actually also one of our beginner class teachers. When we're able to find a venue that has 2 rooms that we can use, so that way I can run an intermediate or advanced class and Q can run a beginner's class.
I mean, Ben was saying that the demographic's quite broad, and I'm imagining with beginners as well you get some younger people.
So my youngest at the moment is 10. And then I don't ask people's ages. They're essentially older than me or younger than me. But I definitely...
We don't know the upper limit.
No.
We don't know.
I definitely have had somebody in their late 70s with us as well. So I'll take anyone as long as they're respectful and can kind of handle it. Kids are a little bit rough for me, but as long as they can handle the fact that they're playing with primarily adults, then I'm happy to have them.
And there even seemed like quite a big range of demographic in terms of like men and women, and then I imagine there's people from all different kinds of jobs and stuff.
We have a handful of team members who are kit drummers who come from or set drummers that come from a band background, and they find taiko as an interesting other
way of playing
way for drumming,
and then you just get people who want some exercise that isn't boring. And then some people, of course, who have the Japanese connection. We got quite a few people who used to be in JET, and we do have some Japanese nationals that live here, or some kids that are half Japanese, half Kiwi, come and join to kind of get a little bit of that culture that you don't really get here.
Recovery from injuries and accidents?
Yes, so we had one of our members had a stroke just after one of our classes, and she's kept it up for her recovery, trying to bring up the left side of her body a bit more.
It's really good for your coordination, and by being music and dance and exercise and memorization, it's really good for your brain and your body, and I think she's finding that quite helpful for her recovery.
Yeah. And you don't need any music experience, because when I joined, I couldn't read sheet music. So in Japan, you traditionally teach through kuchishoga, which is like singing the song, like don, 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 or something. So it doesn't even matter if you can read sheet music or not. We, maybe about 30% of our songs have sheet music. Yeah, it does. It's gotten easier over the years. When it's our performance season, I'm a lot more busy. But it's pretty much my full-time job. I do have a casual job teaching people how to throw axes as well. I got sick at my previous job, and then I started this taiko group, and then my husband ended up saying, hey, why don't you just try and make this full-time? And that's what I've done. Couldn't do it without him, for sure.
And so you guys do public performances as well. Do you advertise that anywhere?
Usually through Facebook or our website, if we've got anything coming up. I mean, it's a little bit dry at the moment because of COVID. But we usually have a performance season in the warmer months, and we get booked out. I think before COVID, the best we had was every weekend from end of January through to April or something. Something absolutely ridiculous like that.
Do you have any regular performances that you do most years?
We perform at around the base quite frequently, so the marathon. So we're drumming from about 7:30 in the morning to about 1 p.m. Yeah, but it's not what you saw tonight. It's completely different, because that would kill us. So what it is just a bunch of drums and a bunch of people just playing the same rhythms over and over, and we change the songs up. And it's a good performance for our beginners to join in, because nobody's actually watching them, because that freaks people out when they perform. They don't want people watching them. And another one that we regularly do is out in the park, or Pride, because we're very LGBTIQA friendly in our team, and really proud to kind of I don't know, perform for our siblings.
For our people.
Yeah. And like show that that we really support them. Yeah.
And so how do people join Narukami Taiko?
So we've got around about 4 terms per year. So we take intakes about 4 times. We run 10-week terms. We usually have some open sessions. Pre-COVID, we'd have them each time before, so you could come and try Taiko before you signed up for a term. With COVID, it's a little bit hard to get all these people in a room together. It's a bit off. So if you're keen to join, just send us a message and we'll let you know when the next intake is.
Although, we've talked to a lot of Japanese people about Japanese culture in Aotearoa, it's nice to also talk to a Kiwi who's bringing that culture here.
Yeah, I love it. Because, when you live over in Japan, you kind of get a reverse culture shock when you come back to New Zealand. And it's nice to kind of keep some of that going, even if it's only a couple of hours a week. And then it's great to share a culture that's so far away from us as well. And then what's awesome is that we've got quite deep connections with a couple of people in Japan, so they come and visit us, pre-COVID, at least once a year, and show us how to play their particular way of playing and stuff, because there's so many different ways that you can play Taiko.
And as a student Q, how has Narukami Taiko been for you?
I joined Narukami Taiko in 2018 after the company had been established for a few years already, and it was one of the first things I did when I moved to New Zealand from America, and I didn't know anyone here, but I had spent some time in Japan and played some Taiko in Japan way back over a decade prior, and I can't exaggerate how important Narukami has been to me, just to be part of this group. And it was my first community of friends, and it's such a welcoming group. It's I've found my people right away, sort of because of Jessie, because of Jessie's vision and sort of the inclusivity of the team. So I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. I think there's a lot of us who are just kind of oh yeah, I found my people with Narukami, and so we stick around. We stick around for a reason.
Well, thank you so much for letting me hold you back after your class. I enjoyed it so much. It made me want to play Taiko, and yeah, I'm very grateful to be able to have talked to you guys about what you've been doing here at Narukami.
You're so welcome.
And if you want to join Narukami, like Jessie said, you can just reach out via the website or Facebook and she'll send you out some more information. And there are also other Narukami teams all around New Zealand, at universities, at schools, but also schools like Jessie's all around the country, in the South Island and in the North Island. I know there's quite a few in Auckland, obviously Narukami in Wellington, pretty sure there's one in Palmerston North, pretty sure Dunedin's got one, Christchurch has probably got a few as well. So if you want to join Taiko, even if you just want to give it a go, you should reach out to your local school or club and, see if you can pick up Taiko. And it looks like so much fun. It was honestly so energizing to be in the room. So that was our episode this week. The next episode is going to be about Canterbury Museum and the Japanese objects in the collection there. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.